Well, hi everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. Thank you for putting up with all of our technical difficulties, which seem to happen every week at this point, but that's all right. We're delighted to be joined by Dr. Kat Phillips. Let me get that right. From CAMAX, and she'll be talking to us today on filling the gap and finding your niche. So take it away, Kat.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Last time I was here giving a talk, I was not a doctor, and I was currently desperately trying to figure out where I was going to be in life. So it's nice that, you know, full circle moment getting to speak now as an employee. So I can't be rude, but it's good life. In complete transparency, these slides were written last night, so hopefully I remember what's going on, and it's all a good time. Other secret fun fact, just before I get started. I am super happy with the title of this talk because filling the gap is actually the title of my thesis. So I did droplet dynamics and specifically looked at filling the equation gap between a droplet and a liquid bath. So this isn't a mathsy talk, but for those of you that are interested in my research, that is a nice little nod to that. This talk is basically just, here's a lot of things I've done. Here's how, if I was going to think about them pedagogically, I would do that. And here's why I don't think I've done anything that drastic, and that is supposed to be an inspiring thing to just start doing things and see what happens, is sort of the takeaway from this talk. So hopefully we get to that point, you all feel inspired, we have a nice time. If that doesn't happen, sorry, is the answer. So brief history of my sort of career roadmap. I grew up in South Wales. And I was there until 2015, where I moved to Cardiff to do my undergraduate. I got an MMath from Cardiff University, and I was there between 2015 and 2019. In 2019, then, I started my PhD, and I joined the SAMBA CDT, which is the Statistical Applied Maths at Bath CDT. And that was a one-year Master of Research with 3-year PhD on top of it. I was there a little bit longer than 3 years because, you know, deadlines are scary, and who wants to listen to those? And then I slowly realized that this roadmap was kind of starting to look like the M4, which would mean that the next logical stop would either be Reading or London. So quickly vetoed upward and joined Warwick in August of last year. Happily to say I'm here now for an amount of time. Let's see what happens. Let's keep it interesting. Those of you that saw the advert for this talk on Instagram, there were a few fun facts on there, and this is my go-to fun fact. Any icebreaker, I now win. Not that it's a competition, but come on. In 2015, my home rugby team, the Ospreys, did a lottery with all of their season ticket holders to rename the stadium for one game, and they did, and I won. So all of the branding, this is a photo of me back with my natural hair color way, way back when. They changed every single place in the stadium where it said the Liberty Stadium. It's now the Swansea.com Stadium. Every single place where it said that was my name in bold letters. And they let me take one of these boards home. So that's in my parents' house. It's a 6-foot poster board with just my name on it, which, you know, I hope my mum doesn't need that to remember who I am, but if she does, it's there for her. So this is a fun little nod to that. So that's cool. That's the thing I did. I had no contribution to it, but that's nice. Just in case anyone was wondering what that was about. I don't own a stadium. That would be cool. I've broken this talk down into sort of 3 main projects I've worked on. I didn't go into all of these projects thinking about them as projects. They just sort of happened, and then I turned up one day and realized that I'd made a thing. Which is the best way to do things sometimes. It is quite a nice exploratory way to do things. So part 1, KatDoesMaths. So as I said, I started my PhD in Bath in 2019. This is my cohort. These are all the people I joined with. They are wonderful, wonderful human beings, and they made my PhD so much fun. And that's me with blonde-ish hair at that point in time. I've snuck in, I think, nearly every hair color I've had into this talk, which is quite a fun realization, but does date the photos quite chronologically, which is a bit awkward. So yeah, we started in September of 2019, and it was a lot of fun. I was doing maths I was familiar with, maths I was unfamiliar with. In Samba, the big thing is sort of giving a really broad range of taste of different types of research. CDTs are wonderful in that you really get to sort of explore, see what makes, what works for you. And, you know, I was really loving Bath. It was a really pretty city. I did the classic tourist trap, go to the Roman baths, have a look around, all of that stuff when I got there. I started learning about all of the outreach opportunities that existed. And in particular, for me, the thing that I really, really loved about that first year was getting to start teaching. I thought it was a lot of fun interacting with, I was teaching first year, it was called methods, so like intro to calculus, mechanics sort of thing. And in particular, what I really, really loved about it in that first semester of teaching was getting to be really interactive with the students. I was lucky that I had a lot of teachers throughout my degree and throughout my life that were really focused on getting people engaged and getting people involved. So I tried to bring that to the table. And one of the things that I used to do, and this whiteboard photo represents, is I would draw out loads of different problems on the board, put one whiteboard marker down on the front table, step back, and let all the students run for which problem they wanted to solve. And some of these was a lot easier than others. So there was a lot of competition, but there was a lot of engagement, and they enjoyed interacting with each other. I think I had pretty good success. My feedbacks were always quite positive. My student turnout was quite good. I was able to kind of foster a really good learning environment for those students. I'm happy to say some of them had reached out to me September just gone, telling me that they were doing PhD applications. And one of my students has just got into a PhD program. And they reached out to me, and I haven't taught them since their first year, first semester. So that's quite nice. That was a really heartfelt moment for me. But those of you paying attention to the timeline will realize that September 2019 meant that I was in my first year of PhD when COVID hit. So all of that fun going and being in the beautiful city of Bath and getting to hang out with my cohort and teaching in person, that all went away. And it was a really hard time for everyone. I don't need to explain this to people, but everything in person suddenly was online, and there was no precedent set in most places for how you go about doing that. So what a lot of people did was they took what happened in person and they tried to exactly replicate it online. So lecturers were setting up their webcams and trying to write on blackboards and trying to get that in-person eye contact thing that we're taught about when we're talking in person. You know, I look at someone and I talk to you for a bit, and then I'm going to look at you and I'm going to talk to you, and all these tips and tricks suddenly didn't work because you're sat in a Zoom call on your own with everyone else's cameras off, everyone else's mics off. So not only was I in my master's year, so I was teaching online, but I was also learning online. And I was one of those people. I had my camera off, I had my webcam off, I didn't want to talk. It felt very awkward. It felt very, you know, I don't even know what, it just, no one did it, right? We were all sort of there in that space. And it was really, really hard to foster a good learning environment because it was so disengaging. And that's not the fault of the teachers in that space. Everyone was in unprecedented systems. What I tried to do with it was to do the same thing that everyone else was doing. I took what I did in person and I moved it online. I can't put a whiteboard pen down, but Zoom does have virtual whiteboards. So I tried it. I was like, right, okay, what happens if I let a group of 20 19-year-olds draw on a whiteboard in front of each other online where there's no accountability and I can't see their faces? And what you're picturing happened like every time. But after they kind of got the giggles out and drew rude words and did all of that stuff, I just hit clear and I'm like, right, can we get on with it? And normally the answer was yes. So suddenly, instead of looking like this, you know, it jumps to this. This is actually a screen grab of one of my tutorials. At the end of one of my tutorials, I was like, right, go crazy, turn on everyone's pens. I did check it, hopefully, for anything rude. I'm pretty sure it's fine. But they were just having a laugh. And I think meeting them where they were at, meeting them at where they wanted to engage with me, meant that they were willing to take part in that conversation. And I screen grabbed this because this was I think it was like week 10 or week 11. So the final time I was teaching them, and I did not know their faces, I didn't know their voices. I only knew their screen names, and I knew what they were saying in chat, because through doing this, through letting them write, they were talking in chat, they were typing out their answers to me. They were talking to each other, they were talking to me, they were engaging. One of them bumped into me and said, "Hi, you taught me," and I'm like, I do not recognize you at all. And they were like, "No, I was this one that said that," and I'm like, right. So it worked, and it was something that was kind of disparate between how I was teaching others and how most people were going about it. And slowly we started adapting to bringing in this, meet them where they're at, don't force people to put their cameras on. What else can you do? What other tools can you use? Suddenly things like Kaggle blew up, right? And quizzes and engagement tools. And I sort of realized while I was doing this, I think it was in early 2021, I realized that what I was doing looked really similar to how I was actually spending my free time. So I'm an avid viewer of Twitch, which is a live streaming platform. So people are streaming themselves live, their audio, their visual, playing games, studying, doing arts and crafts. Predominantly, it is a gaming platform. Historically, it has been a gaming platform, but there is a growing community of people using live streaming, especially over lockdown, with other forms of entertainment and media that otherwise would have been in person. And I kind of thought to myself, well, I like teaching. I wanted to get into engagement. I wanted to join the Mathematicians, which is the best name for an outreach group I've ever heard of in my life. Oh my God, they nailed the market on that one. That never happened. But what if I take that teaching that I was doing in person, I take that engagement, I take that practice that I have with a small group of students, I plonk it on the internet. Worst that happens is I talk to myself for an hour, I turn my camera off and I never do it again. But that didn't happen. And instead, oh no, wrong slide. Devastating. Okay, rework that. I have some silly photos coming up. I changed it and I looked into doing live streaming on Twitch. And that's what I started doing. And since then, so May 21st, 2021 was my first ever live stream. I was streaming on Tuesday. I still do it. I have a good audience. I have a wonderful little community that I've slowly been growing. They are, if they're watching this, hi. Yeah, I love it. I think it's really fun. I think it's a unique space. There are slowly more and more people doing STEM in this. There's an entire science and technology channel category that exists now of people doing coding and doing teaching and putting fun maths, learning maths, all sorts of content on there. It's really undervalued market. It's a really good platform. So if I was going to think about this process and try and quantify it, try and explain what I did, I was first faced with the problem of everything moved online. No one knew what they were doing. And there was sort of a lack of engagement happening. The main issue, basically every meeting with staff, with PhD students, with tutors, was how on earth do we teach people in this new world? The clear gap was no one knew what to do, right? There was no advice, there was no precedent, there wasn't any pedagogical research. We never needed it that much before. Fun fact, there were actually online. Open University have been doing online courses for years. So they were secretly ahead of the curve there, but there wasn't big widespread knowledge. So the solution to that I found was try and think of something more creative. Instead of trying to force people to meet me where I'm at, go join them where they are, right? If they want to talk to me via chat, let them. If they want to send me emails during lectures, let them. I think my go-to like joke phrase is, if you want to send me carrier pigeon, do it, but you're not having my address. Like, it's all about sort of meeting them where they are. And the thing that I learned from that was like, there is already a lot of resource, not on how to teach online, but how to effectively entertain online, how to effectively communicate online. So bring that over to the academic world, and suddenly you get this new space of engagement. Now there's time for silly pictures. So this is me over the years teaching maths in a variety of different ways on Twitch. I've tried, standing at a blackboard and putting a camera at it. The two right screens are a free notepad app called Journal, which is quite good. The top one is me speed running GCSE papers. I did that for a charity event. Turns out I'm very bad at GCSE papers. Don't like that fact about myself. That is a thing that I now know. I'm even worse at A-levels. I didn't even pass. I got less than a U doing an A-level paper as a speed run. I honestly, go try it. It's kind of fun. But I've done loads of different things, and I keep changing and adapting how I do it because I find something else works. This was quite difficult. They can't see the board the entire time. I'm standing in front of it. Suddenly I have to care about room audio. So I switched to something that worked better for me. Some people really like the aesthetic of using a visualizer. It's all about continually changing, modifying, and adapting what I do. That being said, I don't just do maths on Twitch. A lot of what Twitch is an entertainment platform, first and foremost. So normally I look like one of these. So this is a sort of more typical thing. Someone came up with cat in the hat at one point many years ago, and now you can make me wear a variety of silly things on my head. Most notably, a charity redeem was getting me to dress as cat in the hat. I think we raised £1,200 for a variety, I think it was like 6 different charities as part of Jingle Jam last year, and that was the reward for my community for raising so much money. And it keeps growing, and yes, I get to do silly things and I make a fool of myself, but that's because I'm able to slip in the occasional maths topic. And suddenly these people that say that they're not there for the maths are learning things. And that's the goal, is lure them in with silliness and then slap them in the face with maths. Since then, I now call myself a maths communicator. As part of my role here at Warwick, I am a engagement person, officer, lead. I don't really know. I need to come up with a fun name. But my role here is doing things. If you in the room had an email or a message last week saying, please, for the love of God, come do some origami, that was me. This is an example of one of the things that we made, but we have a big display that is going up somewhere in the building, hopefully soon, of the 3 days worth of work from everyone that contributed to that. And hopefully we're going to do more like creative things, more outspoken things, more events. There's a big maths communication conference coming here in August. It's really exciting. But I've gone and done talks for A-level students. I helped run a SIAM-IMA convention. I will be taking part in a D&D stream for charity. Yes.
What's the science communication conference?
The one coming up?
Yeah. Talking
Maths in Public.
Is the sign up for that still available?
It isn't open yet. Secret spoilers. I'm pretty sure it's not open yet, otherwise I need to also sign up to this. But yeah, that's happening end of August, I want to say. But there will be an announcement about it when that happens. Yeah, so like I've done a load of random things, and all of this has sort of come from me sort of being loud about how much I like maths on Twitch. And if you're wondering where KatDoesMaths come from, that's my username, that's my channel name. If you want to find me on any social, KatDoesMaths is my handle. And the thing that I'm particularly proud of is I've raised over $7,000 for charities, variety of different charities over the years, but it's something that I'm really passionate about. I have a voice, I have a platform, and I want to keep doing a lot of good in the world as well. But all of this just comes from me looking like this. So no, don't take a photo of that slide, you bitch. That's fair, that's fair. Yeah, so like I didn't know when I did this that this is what was going to come of it, but I'm really happy that it has, and it just kind of keeps building. Right, on to part 2, moving away from the silliness of the internet. Behind the research. So behind the research was an initiative that sort of came out from me being loud about doing maths communication at Bath. I ended up doing a placement at Bath looking into recruitment practices and how we can use online methods to advertise what a PhD is better. So the next slides are going to be a lot more bright than the aesthetic of the previous ones. That's because I've shamelessly stolen them from a promo talk that we did for Behind the Research. So if you're wondering why the color doesn't match, that's not my fault. So Behind the Research is an initiative founded by me and supported by the SAM CDT and the Public Engagement Unit at Bath. And it had 2 main focuses. So when I came into this secondment, there were sort of 2 goals. There was how do we get PhD students the skills and opportunities to do more outreach stuff? And also, how do we advertise the PhD experience truthfully or better to an audience that don't necessarily know what it is, right? There's definitely a perception that exists of what an academic looks like, what an academic does, and that's not always true. The career path isn't as straight line as people would expect, and we wanted to showcase that. So we wanted to showcase the day-to-day life and experiences of people in academia to a wide audience, promoting non-traditional career paths into research and demystifying higher education. And then we also wanted to provide training and outreach opportunities to the PhD students themselves in the department and help develop transferable skills through online communication mediums. Now, those of you that were paying attention in the first part will realize online communication mediums, hello, that's me. I do the training of that stuff. So this was basically an opportunity for me to go to the PhD students at Bath and go, hi, I know a lot of stuff, what do you want? And mostly that was me going, hey, I do Twitch, do you want to do Twitch? Has anyone considered our Lord and Savior live streaming? And they went, that's nice, Kat, that's cool, but can we do some other stuff as well? So I took a bit more of a backseat, and people who wanted to develop advertising on Instagram took over, people who wanted to do YouTube took over. And it was a group of PhD students who were all incredibly wonderful,
all sharing knowledge. And if we didn't have that knowledge between us, we were going and finding it. So the main thing that we are doing, I think it's still going, is the Meet the People live streams. So every month we would sit down with 2 PhD students, academics, professional development staff, variety of different people at the University of Bath. We've had guest streams from co-leads of Piscopia have been on our live streams. We've had a PhD student from a CDT over in Cardiff come on, but just having a chat with them, just asking them to share what their experiences were. If they're quite young in their career, why are they here? Why did they choose a PhD? What other opportunities did they do? What struggles are they having? What's their genuine, authentic experience? More senior people, how did you end up where you are? What's the questions? And the wonderful thing about doing this on live streaming is that if someone's watching and they have a question, they can ask there and then. That's the main difference between something like a recorded video and a live stream, is you get to actually contribute to the conversation directly, right? You're in the room with them for all intents and purposes. So that happened every month. I think it's had a bit of a slowdown at the minute, but that will hopefully come back at some point, please. But then they were also, posting on Instagram, creating reels. There was a series of day in the life events. There's been a 12 Days of Christmas parody video that came out that we did, all sorts of silly nonsense. And we also did a vlog of the big sort of Samba CDT training event. There's a week-long workshop, and we made a 40-minute video that was supposed to be a 5-minute video that turned into a 40-minute video of 2 people's experiences taking part in that event. So this is a video we did for Pi Day. I'm intentionally not putting the audio on because I hate my voice in it. But we just went around and we asked all the PhDs, what was your favorite pie? Interestingly, everyone except one person said a sweet variety of pie. One person said steak and kidney, and we were like, that's, you do you. Apple was the most popular. I don't know whether that's like I don't know, and feel what you want from that. And then this is the behind the scenes video of the training workshop. We also got to work with the University of Bath social media accounts themselves and did a Twitter space takeover back when that was a thing. And we've also done a PhD in the life with Beth, who is the wonderful lead of behind the research now. She did a day in the life video of her own experiences that went on the actual Uni of Bath Twitter Instagram account, which was really, really cool. So they're still going. They are but it was a project that sort of kind of snowballed, right? It was me going, I have all this knowledge in my head, please, does anyone want it? Some people said yes, and then suddenly it's this initiative and this team that's done loads of videos, loads of content, and we were able to get a grant to get them their own content creation toolkit, which consists of a camera, laptop, microphones, all of the stuff, like hard drive, everything you might need to do any sort of digital media content. There's a dedicated room on campus now for digital media content creation that is primarily used by the PhD students. So anyone that wants to do something, that barrier to access is gone. So yeah, this is something that I'm incredibly proud of developing, and getting to see where it goes next is always an absolute joy to me. So going back to that sort of what happened, putting it a bit more formally, the main problem that the Uni of Bath were having was that there wasn't a lot of recruitment, and they didn't have a lot of in-house training opportunities for their PhD students. So what can we do about it? Well, the university advertising for PhDs can't always reach a broad audience. If you think about uni marketing generally across the board, universities are a charity primarily and a business. They have to come at things with a certain level of polish, I'm going to say. And that means that they don't always get to have those casual chats that maybe someone who's on the fence might want to ask. And the other thing was PhD students, they need information. You can't just give someone, tell someone to go and do something. You need to give them some support in that space. So the solution was creating behind the research. So we were able to train up students. So the team that I left behind are all capable of training. The whole thing is a full multi-level scheme. It's honestly, it's just a pyramid scheme for Twitch. It's not, that's a joke. But they all have those skills. And once you have those skills, you can share those skills. And I'm not the best person for this sort of stuff. Please don't ask me about sound design. All of my moderators will tell you I am awful at it. I just talk at a microphone and that's it. But there are other people that have those skills, and we share and we talk and we all learn together. And that's the main focus. So aligning my personal skills and passions, I like doing online content. I like sharing that information. I like teaching. I like talking. You cannot shut me up once I get going. That worked really well because the institution, the department needed someone to do that for them. They needed a voice to kind of take that lead and just make that space. So Behind the Research is, yeah, still going, and it's really good. They're currently, I think, doing Instagram stories. They're just doing day in the life Instagram stories at the minute, just to keep going. Okay. Third thing I want to talk to you today is PhD your way. So I tried to bribe someone to come into the room that had taken part in this, but they were busy. But this is one of the things, the third thing that I want to talk about today. And this is, Behind the Research was an initiative that I was kind of asked to develop. PhD your way is my baby. This is the thing that if I make no further advances in my career at all, but this continues, I'm happy. The goal with this is very similar to the previous one, Behind the Research, but on a bigger scale. So this started when a PhD student, who's now a doctor, I believe, over from Oxford called Patrick, sent an email to, I think, every EDI lead for every maths department in the UK that he could find an email address of. Man wanted to be heard. So he sent an email out going, hi, I have an idea. PhD applications are really complicated. What can we do about it? And this went to someone at Bath, and this was just about at the same time that Behind the Research was starting to get going. So my name was slowly getting out there in the department as someone that had capacity and had knowledge to do this sort of thing. So it got passed on to me. So I emailed him back and I went, hi, let's chat. And a few other people did. So me, Patrick, and a bunch of academics from a few different institutions across the UK all sat down and had a chat about what could possibly be done. And again, these are slides that are stolen from something else, so forgive the color jump again, but this is the full little tag color I had, and this is Patrick. He's wonderful. I hope he's having a wonderful time. We got together and we created PhD Your Way, along with a series of advisory board members from a range of different institutions. And the main thing that we were sort of jumping into was our own PhD experience of applying was really difficult. For me, I was lucky that I knew someone at my home institution of Cardiff, and I went to her, and I got on really well with my fluids lecturer, actually. And I said, I'm thinking about a PhD, what do I do? And she passed a few names on to me, and I started looking. But having to rely on knowing someone already in the field, having to rely on that, you know, a nice academic that takes the time to do that for you, not everyone has that opportunity. Most advertising and recruitment is done for a university, by a university for a university. So the University of Warwick will put out a lot of promotional material to advertise PhDs at the University of Warwick. The University of Bath will do the same. Every institution has capacity to do recruitment, but they're very focused on their own students, which is reasonable. But as a PhD applicant, you don't necessarily want that. And then the other thing is it takes a lot of time. I don't know if you've ever looked at most university websites, but they are all different. There are a range of qualities and a range of, I'm going to say, decades of creation. That information is different in every single institution. And although the sort of core process might be similar, the funding body, the UKRI might be similar, it takes a lot of time out of your day to go and look for it. I'm sure you all remember PhD application processes of yourself. If you are someone who doesn't have the time to give to that process, that might just immediately cut you out of the pool. And we didn't think that was particularly fair. So we kind of narrowed it down into, we wanted to help finally undergrads and master's students, and not just restrict to that, but that was our main focus. Reaching a broader audience than this is a non-trivial challenge. But essentially trying to help students who don't have easy access to that knowledge, to that connection. I don't know about you lot, but when I thought about doing a PhD for the first time, I didn't realize that there was a stipend. I didn't realize that paid was an option. I thought it was another 3 years of loans. And that was a lot more serious conversation that I had to sit down and think about with myself. And luckily, again, I had an academic willing to explain things to me. And I went to an event over at Bristol that again laid everything out very clearly. But if that was the point at which I said, no, I'm already, I already have student loans, that's it for me, that's not fair. That really sucks. So we wanted to really try and fill this information gap. We wanted to take away one small barrier to access, which is that knowledge. It's that knowing someone on the inside. It's that the casual stuff that you learn through being in academia and knowing people in academia. So we wanted to bring all that together. That's obviously a lot of stuff. So we had to really think about what to include. Like there is a lot of information process out there, and we can't advertise every single PhD that exists. findaphd.com is a great platform that most PhD opportunities in the UK go on, but the information is limited to whatever the academic advertising puts up. But we knew we wanted to give them basic information. We wanted to take away that initial step. If someone's on the fence, we wanted to just give them enough information that when they start looking, they can do that informed. And then we also wanted to bring the universities in because, again, there are universities running events for universities. There are initiatives, the LMS, running sort of broader stuff. But we thought we don't really want to run something in person. Hello, online media content creator here. I wanted to do it online because I think there is definitely, if I tell you that there's a 2-hour event happening and it's online, you book out 2 hours in your day. If I tell you there's a 2-hour event happening in London, you book out your entire day. And if you work, or if you're a student, or if you have caring responsibilities, you can't do that. So I was really passionate about making sure it was online and making sure that we didn't have to put any additional burden on the people coming to the event. So refocusing, we kind of figured it down into the application process is intimidating. It can be confusing, and lots of different unis say lots of different things and use lots of different words and have it in different formats and different places. If someone's giving you the stipend per term and someone else is giving you the stipend per semester, and Cambridge says Michaelmas or whatever, like it gets too complicated. So we wanted to kind of narrow it down and bring it together. Information is scattered, travel's expensive. Sometimes you don't always see yourself. If I go and talk to an academic that I might think about working with, I just talk to that one academic. If they are different to me, or they, that's one person, that's one representation of what an academic can be like. So that's another challenge. And also something that, this is going on YouTube, yeah? Okay. I'm gonna think carefully about what I say. Universities, when they advertise, have to, we wanted to make sure that the voices of PhD students were heard in this conversation. I think the most important advice that I can give anyone, and if anyone disagrees with me, I will fight them on it, because I genuinely believe this, is if you are curious about how an academic is as a supervisor, you should talk to their students. And you hope that the student says something good,
yes,
and sometimes the student says something bad. And I think that is information that you should have going into a PhD application. And universities as an entity cannot do this. And as an academic, I cannot do this. I don't know what I'm like as a supervisor. They should get someone outside experience. And we wanted to kind of bring that into the conversation. We wanted to bring an authentic thing in. We wanted to make sure that people were getting genuine information. So we needed it to not be a space where that might come back and bite someone. So the solutions that we came up with: talks going over the structure of PhD funding, opportunities, and how the application process works. We felt that those were the 3 main things that people could get started with. We wanted to bring together a single information booklet. So take information from every university that took part in our event, bring it into one space and lay it out in the same way, so that I can compare side by side every university that took part. I can put the Open University next to Southampton, next to Oxford, and the dates, research groups, deadlines, funding costs, whatever, is all side by side. So there's a slightly better way to compare the two. We wanted it to just be an afternoon. Online events are tiring. I am a big fan of online content. I'm aware that sitting at a computer is draining and it's not as engaging as being in person, and you don't get that space. So we wanted to keep it quite short. And we wanted to keep it to an afternoon, so if you are taking time off work or you are taking time out of your caring responsibilities, it doesn't fit around the school run, for example. And then we wanted to bring PhD students in. The voice of PhD students is integral to this event running, because without the PhD students giving their current experiences, as much as I love to say that I'm only 6 months out of being a PhD student. I applied a while ago. And me being down with the kids is not as important as them getting authentic information. So my ego has to take a backseat, and I let other people speak at this event. So we bring together a load of PhD students. Every institution that takes part in our event nominates between 1 and 3 PhD students to volunteer. And we split the day into, I think the next slide does this. Yeah. So we split the day into a webinar, which takes half an hour of all the key information. And we bring an academic in to tell you the formal information about how the application process works, how the funding works, all that jazz. My then 2 favorite parts, because I really can't decide between them, is we have a panel session of about 6 max PhD students from a range of different backgrounds, from a range of different universities, from CDTs and non-CDTs and international students and home students and lots of different funding opportunities. And we bring them together and we tell everyone in attendance, ask questions, right? They're there, they're willing to chat, ask them anything you want to know. And I think most recently there was a really lovely conversation about doing PhDs with chronic illness, because we were lucky that our volunteer was willing to talk about that. And that's a space in a public platform that if someone else asks a question, you can hear and you can listen. But the really, really unique selling point of this event is that we then host, has anyone used GatherTown in this room? Yeah, some nods, some no's. So it's 2023 and 2024. First year we ran it on Zoom, and we put everyone in breakout rooms. We put all of the institutions that took part. In 2022, there were 14 institutions. They each had a breakout room with their PhD students, and you could go and ask the PhDs at that institution some questions. Being completely transparent and failing with that was everyone saw University of Oxford and fled over there and just kind of hounded those PhD students with questions, and that was a bit of a shame. The questions you were asking was not what we were sort of hoping this. We were hoping that the Q&A session on a smaller scale, you ask more about maybe how is it like living? Where's it good to move? What's this supervisor like? That sort of stuff. So we changed it, I think in 2024, we kept similar to see if it was a one-off or not for 2023. The GatherTown is a proximity-based gamified video chat room. So you have a room, a digital room, and you have a little controller. Where am I? Somewhere over here. There I am. No, I'm not. Yeah, there I am. I'm a host. But you have this little character and you can change their aesthetic. Someone's Dracula in there somewhere. And you walk them around the space, and the closer your character is to someone else's character, the clearer their audio and visual is, which means that I can have sort of a private conversation with someone by just standing over to the side in this room. So I can go and talk to fewer people. I can go and actually have interactions. Most recently, we ran this in 2024, and we did it based on topic. So I don't know if anyone's tried dividing into research groups the entire plethora of mathematical sciences. It's really hard and people have opinions, but we went for applied maths, statistics and probability, and pure mathematics, and tried mostly based off what our volunteers did, and that split into 3 nicely. And that seemed to work out really well. There were different people from different institutions dotted about, and the attendees could go and ask questions, and there seemed to be some really good chats happening. The wonderful thing about 2024 is that some of the PhD volunteers came to 2023, and some of the PhD volunteers for 2023 came to 2022. So not only have I started a pyramid scheme in Twitch streaming, I've also got an entire cohort of PhD students that know about this. Most recently, my favorite thing is I got asked for this photo because one of my volunteers was going for a job interview and they wanted to advertise that they took part, and that just made my heart swell a little bit. Attendee-wise, we're getting, I think we had about 160 people attending. We have about 300 plus people on the mailing list each year. Even though that's half of the numbers that don't come to the event, they still get that information booklet. And actually, if you go to our website, which you can find via either my website or sites.google.com/view/phd-your-way, the information booklet is still there. So if anyone is curious about applying for a PhD in 2024 in this room, don't know why you would, but you know, you do you. You can go and see all that information. And we have a map, and we have a calendar of deadlines, and we have each uni that takes part. We have 23 institutions in the most recent one. Warwick was represented. Very hard to get volunteers. What is that about? Come on. But yeah. Yeah, I now know enough of you that I'm gonna, yeah, 2025 is coming. Yeah, this event runs in November each year, or end of October, it'll be November each year. So like, just saying, empty your calendars now. Yeah, this is something that is wonderful. I love it. I feel like I'm making a difference, and more than that, I'm seeing that I'm making a difference. It's all well and good to feel warm and fuzzy about what you do, but like seeing the physical change is always really reassuring. So just running through it quickly. Information about the PhD opportunities were really scattered, and people don't know what they don't know, right? If they don't know how a PhD day works, if they think it's just stand at a blackboard and do work, they don't know what they're missing out on. They don't know about seminars. Why would they know about seminars? So we had to really kind of fill in a lot of gaps. There isn't a centralized information center. If you are in the UK, when you're applying to university, you go through UCAS, and it's sort of everything in one place, and you see all the universities side by side. That doesn't exist in PhDs, and nor should it to an extent. It is a very individual process, but it can definitely be made easier. A lot of events are in person as well. So we made PhD OA, online webinar, and PhD fair, sort of like a job fair-esque vibe is what we were going for, with an info booklet. And the info booklet is in Canva, and it's beautiful, and I love it, and I spent way too long doing the design of it. And the thing that I kind of took away with this is I don't think this is novel. Maybe it's like the self-deprecating insecurity in me, but like I don't think that this is drastic, right? I saw a gap and I filled it, and it was a series of steps with a series of skills that I've picked up over my experiences that I just sort of smushed everything together, and it worked. And I kept doing that. And I didn't do anything new. The concept of a PhD open day exists. I just took it and shifted it slightly. And I made a complicated problem slightly easier. And that in itself is an incredibly large amount of added value to, hopefully, society, at the very least, the PhD scheme. So, in summary, finding a niche isn't about finding something and deciding that that is going to be what you work at and like this is your target goal. That is a good thing to do in life, sometimes, but that's not what this is. What my perception, and all of it, take all of this with a grain of salt, please. My perception of it is finding out what something is missing, either from society or your friends or your environment or your work life, and finding what you can offer, and then finding that balance between the two, right? I took my love of teaching in person and having that interaction and engagement, and I made the best of it online, and then suddenly that was something that I could keep building on and developing and expanding, and now I do a load of online content stuff, and I get to say that this is my job. And it's just a series of small steps. And if you're wondering what sort of added value you can do, things like simplifying a complicated process makes life easier for others, bridging gaps and making something more digestible. This is all stuff that you're sort of told with why you should write a research paper, what you're bringing to the research field. It's secretly, it's all the same thing. Filling an interest, so something that's passionate to me with something that you care about. You wanted a talk, I made a talk, I provided you a talk. I have added value to this room, hopefully. We'll see how the end goes. And also being proactive and not reactive, waiting for someone to ask you something versus telling people that this is an offering that you can provide. There are times and places for both. I didn't volunteer for this, I got reached out to, but similar argument applies. So my sort of broad advice after I've got down off my soapbox, pay attention to what people are complaining about, pay attention to what people are missing, and if it's something that you can do, then do that. Experiment and iterate. You're never going to be perfect straight off, and you're never going to be perfect, so throw that out the window. And instead, view each interaction you have, view each time you do something as a chance to learn. Something that I wanted to fit in this talk that I didn't, that I think I really should have. That photo from all the way back. Oh God, there are a lot of slides. This one. This is December 2019. And I know that because this was our first ever assessed talks as part of the SAMPA CDT. And there is another photo that exists of me sat on the floor with my head in my jumper crying because I was so scared of public speaking that the idea of getting up and standing in front of literally these people and 2 academics, and like I adore these people, they're all my friends, they are lovely, lovely humans, terrified me. I came from a place of being really, really fearful of public speaking. And now I do stuff like this. And now I do stuff like that. That is a room of 900 A-level students. I don't know if you've ever spoken to a 17-year-old, but they are terrifying. 900 of them. And that's me. That tiny little dot with, I think, orange hair at the time is me. And I only got there because I kept doing it, because I had to do talks as assessment, and I had to do talks as part of things like postgrad student seminars. And I realized that it aligned with, you know, doing it online. I can't see my audience. There's 2 or there's 20 people or there's 200 people. It's all the same. And suddenly it became less scary, figuring out what worked for me. The first talk I give is normally awful, but spoilers, I got better at it and I built it up. So iterating isn't a failure. Every time I do something, it's the best that I've ever done at that. Someone said to me that I have this mental block about getting on YouTube because it's permanent, and the idea of doing something permanent scares me. And someone's like, it's going to be bad, and then the next one will be better, and the next one will be better. And that attitude with everything is very useful. Quickly wrapping up, think about mutual benefit. Don't do anything that is neither paying you or good for you or enjoyable for you. If it brings you no added value, don't do it. Your PhD doesn't count necessarily. Think about long-term added value as well. I've been there, trust me. But generally speaking, in life, I think there's a nice, so like Eisenhower matrix or something of like, sort your priorities out, figure out what you're getting out of something, and that type 2 fun, that delayed gratification can count. Don't wait for permission. Obviously, that is a caveated, in certain circumstances, wait for permission, Jesus. But generally speaking, I didn't ask anyone if I could do Twitch streaming. I didn't ask anyone if I could start developing content. Shut up. Just start doing something, and if people like it and they react to it, you can get bigger and you can take it out. But it's shut up. But generally speaking, a lot of stuff is people seeing that you're already doing something and being like, oh, that is actually a good idea. Let's chat about it. So if you come to someone with, hey, I have an idea for a talk, versus, hey, I've made this talk, do you want me to give it? One of those is going to get a better reaction than the others. Do it scared is advice that I stand by. Nat caught me before this talk. I was sat out there and I was terrified. I'm still quite scared of public speaking. I do it anyway because it's important to me, but I am scared, and that's okay. And finally, it's okay to evolve. That kind of comes back to experiment and iterate, because things change, your interests change. If you get known for doing a specific thing and that no longer brings you joy, it's okay to stop doing it. I think that's something that gets really scary with this sort of stuff, is if you're known for being that person that does that one thing, it's really hard to change that, because you kind of have to start from scratch a little bit. But a lot of people do this. If you look at a lot of different places, people's careers, Tom Scott is a wonderful example of this. Is still, I don't know if you know him, he put out a YouTube video every Monday for 10 years straight, every single Monday. And at 10 years, he went, that's enough for me. I'm done. That's terrifying. But it wasn't bringing him joy anymore. And he moved on to bigger and better things. He now has a wonderful podcast called Lateral, which is so good. And who knows what he'll do next, hopefully something wonderful. And then this is a quote from me. Finding a niche isn't about being the best at something, it's about making the biggest difference where it matters most. And to me, that stands true. There's a lot of corporate nonsense out there about niches and USPs and all of this stuff, but making a big difference is important to me, and I think where it matters most is where I focus my energies. So with all that said, thank you so much for listening to me. If anyone is interested in talking to undergrads about PhD opportunities, I'm hosting something here on the 5th of March at midday, and it would be really cool to get some actual PhD voices in. So if you are interested in that, do reach out to me. Any questions? Thank you very much.